That's right, Rochelle. More than 4,000 business leaders, elected officials, and environmentalists from around the world here to combat climate change. Now, California Governor Jerry Brown is one of the co-chairs of this event, and he has said that he knows President Trump is trying to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, but he doesn't speak for the rest of America. That is one of the themes here, trying to work around an administration that does not agree with climate change. Now, those attending believe it's up to local leaders to catalyze the world's presidents and prime ministers to go further and faster. Now, among those attendees were former Vice President Al Gore, who noted that the first day that the U.S. can legally withdraw from the Paris Agreement is actually the day after the next presidential election. His message there was that there is still hope to get back on track to the Paris Accord. Also attending Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, who said that we have to be radical for the prosperity of future generations. Now, this event has not been without controversy. Protesters have come from across the country to protest Governor Jerry Brown, and also to protest their approach that's being taken, because they agree with decarbonization, but they don't agree on the methods here because they don't like the market-oriented approach in working with businesses, especially the cap-and-trade agreements whereby companies can pay for exceeding emissions. Now, I'm joined here by one of the delegates at this event, and he's also a professor of climate science at San Jose State University, Eugene Cordero. Thanks for joining us. I first wanted to say, we have all these meetings going on and these sessions. Do you think there is a clear goal here?
I think the goal, and this was part of the governor's plan, was to take some action on climate change, was to bring people together. So this isn't a science meeting, this is a meeting around action. And so he's looking for local leaders, looking for businesses to step forward and say, okay, we're going to commit to certain goals. And so today we heard about some commitments from business leaders, also from cities, saying, okay, we're going to go for these targets. And so it's part of like bringing a group of people together to say, these are some steps that we're all going to take individually, but that collectively this is going to move us forward towards our, our goal, which is reducing carbon and stabilizing climate.
Have you seen business leaders, the negotiations going on where they've pledged to do something differently?
We're hearing them, and Kaiser Permanente is an example, which is a local healthcare provider, said something on Monday, and we released it today, saying we're going to go for carbon neutrality in 2025, for example. So the buildup of this has been, there's been negotiations beforehand and work within companies to say, can we really take some steps forward?
Now, your area has been education and how it impacts decarbonization. Tell me about that. Has it been discussed?
So I'm a professor, I'm a climate scientist, but I'm also an educator. And I believe strongly that education can have an impact on reducing carbon emissions, and some of our research shows that. But education it's hard to measure it, and that's why in these halls here, you don't see almost any discussion about education.
So what has your research found? You followed people, or tell me, how did it work out?
Yeah, so we studied some of our students years after they've graduated from university, and we looked at their carbon emissions compared to the average Californian. We found they were about 3 tons of carbon per year less than the average Californian, which is similar to the reduction you get by putting solar panels on your roof or by driving an electric vehicle.
Protests have gone on. Do you think it's fair what the protesters are saying, that we don't want corporate greed running these sort of programs?
I don't think it's my place to say what is fair. I think the protesters have good points, that we need to accelerate our decarbonization, that we need to keep the oil in the ground, and that's what they were chanting this morning. But I think that this is a healthy dialogue for this community, is what to do about it, instead of debating about whether it's happening or not and whether the science is clear. If the science is clear, we know humans are contributing. We know that if we don't do something about it in the next, let's say, 10 years, if we can't bend the carbon curve, that we're going to be in trouble. So it's good to have activists pushing on business leaders, pushing on policymakers to make some type of change.
Thank you very much. That's Eugene Cordero from San Jose State University, a climate scientist, saying that there is negotiations going on, pressure on businesses and businesses responding, but he says that education, extremely important part for future generations to actually make a change, and that education in the individuals translates into business leaders eventually making that change. Mark New here at the Climate Summit. Back to you in the studio.